Hello and welcome to the studio. Welcome to the live stream. Pleasure to have your company here. If we haven't met yet, my name's Andrew Tischler. You can call me Tish. That's what my friends call me anyway. And I'm here today to paint a picture with you. And today we're going to be painting a really nice little willow scene. I just photographed this a couple of days ago. And you know when you get an idea that just hits you, the subject presents itself, it's just friggin' awesome, and you just gotta paint it. You ever had a painting you just gotta paint? Well, it's actually good timing here too, because currently on Tisch Academy, we're talking all about painting trees. I've got a beginner tree painting course that we've just uploaded the first module for that. We got the second module coming this week as well. And this is where I break down my techniques for how to paint trees. So if you haven't met me before, if we haven't seen each other yet, then check out more of the videos on my channel and have a look at some of those demonstrations, and check out some of the tree material too. So we're going to be getting into those subjects here very soon, and we're going to be painting one today. It's awesome to see you here as well in the live chat. If you're watching this live and you're logged into your YouTube account and you're there typing away, I can see you. Shout out to Kathleen. I always got to shout out Kathleen because she just inspires me so much. 4:25 a.m. she was up and here for the live stream. It's pretty early in South Australia. We go early. I thought it was early here in New Zealand, but no, it's even earlier in South Australia. So big shout out to all of my Tisch Academy folks that are here in the live chat as well. Perfect happy little trees, says Vanetta 6937. Yes, happy little trees. There you go. You can make some Christmas cards, huh? All right. It's like he's sitting in my studio. It's awesome HD. Yeah, hey, well, we've been working on the tech. I have a little help now, so shout out to Nick Maris and thank you, Nick. And Nick's just back here, so thanks, Nick. Nick's been helping with the with all of that good stuff, getting all the tech worked out. But let's have a look at what we're going to be painting today. I'm going to go over to this one here, and what I've got is a little bit different. Don't mind the bubbles; we won't see that very long. As much as I tried to get that absolutely flat, this happens sometimes. But this is just taped to an MDF board. Now, I know a lot of people are going to be like, shock. Oh my goodness, you're painting on MDF. No, this is linen, triple primed, oil primed linen that has been covered with an imprimatura. That's the color you're seeing there. That is raw umber that I've used this time for my imprimatura. This is a mere stain. It's completely dry by the time I add my first strokes of color. And you can see my palette right there, and that would give you a little glimpse right there at the bottom of your screen. I've got, where am I? I'm gonna try and point to this. I got a bit of reference there, and I'm working in reverse, and a bit of reference right there. So let me tell you about this location. This is an awesome, awesome location. This is my favorite spot on the planet, period. Like, I know there's beautiful places all around the world, but there's something about the Matukituki Valley here in Wanaka where I live now. I don't live in this valley. This is a little bit of a drive away from me. It takes about 45 minutes for me to get here in the truck. So it's nice and close anyway. And if the weather and the light's doing something just right, man, I just hightail it up that valley. We just saw this a couple of days ago, and it was amazing. We had an unseasonal snow here. And so often at this time of year, we don't get snow that low down on the mountains. In fact, it was still on the valley floor in a few of these places. So we had an unseasonal snow. And so you got all of that snow, but at the same time, you've got that beautiful spring growth in those willow trees. And the minute that sun is just setting over the shoulder of Mount Aspiring, as it's sinking down there, it's just backlit these willow trees. It's just looking so cool. So I was like, man, I got to paint it. There's a composition here. I'm going to be thinking on the fly here as I compose this and as I think about my design. I'm not going to be copying or following exactly what you're seeing there in those photographs, but should we just get stuck into it? I got about an hour here on this live stream, and then immediately we're going to kick over to Tisch Academy and carry on for another couple of hours. So, and I'll tell you about that in a second. Oh yeah, is that a Levi shirt? No, it's a Dixon. Not that I'm a brand ambassador, but I like these. They're nice and comfy. They're bamboo. It's great. Hi from Turkey. Hello. How are you? And Grand Pennsylvania, John Wilcox. How are you? Good to see you. Oh, hey, I haven't seen Thoughty here in a while. Good to see you. I know a method to tape that linen perfectly without any bubbles. I can show you. Dude, do it. Hit me up on Insta. Yeah, absolutely. In fact, it didn't have any bubble. And this is something just with the heating here in the studio at the moment. And maybe it's the humidity. It's all over the place. And so I will tape it down again. But eventually, by the way, I am going to adhere that. I'm going to rabbit skin glue it to a board. That's how I like to go. Anyway, should we get started? Let me talk to you about what's on my palette. And over here, no, you do not need all these colors. I'm working on a commission at the moment. This is my extended palette. I'll even get more colors out, but I like having a lot of color. But let me just run through all the same what's sitting here on my palette right now. I've got burnt umber, transparent red oxide, transparent yellow oxide, and raw sienna. My earth always to the left of the white. And then in chromatic order, and also in tonal order, in a manner of speaking, from the whites, and I got titanium incriminates there, my lead carbonate white and titanium white. I used both. They got different properties. Fantastic to have a lead white there on the palette. I've got nickel yellow, just straight up nickel yellow, and nickel yellow deep. This is my replacement for Naples. I can actually get my hands on this. I can't get my hands on the Blue Ridge Naples anymore, which was a beautiful color, but these are fantastic as well for atmospheric colors and just a little kick of yellow and warmth in your whites. Then we got cadmium lemon, Hansa yellow, Indian yellow, cadmium red light, permanent crimson. We got a little bit of quinacridone magenta right there, ultramarine blue, cobalt teal, phthalo green, and chromium green oxide. So you might be wondering, well, okay, if this is your extended palette, you don't normally use all this color, what are some of the colors you might do away with? Well, initially, starting here, I might be able to do away with those three. I like to have the burnt umber there, but we could kick that umber with white and maybe a few of the high chroma colors to achieve something similar to these. Not quite the same, but similar. So maybe those three I could knock out. Those two I could knock out. The Hansa and the Indian I could knock out. And then right here, keeping my cadmium lemon, my cadmium red light, and my quinacridone, that would be pretty good for high chroma colors. If I wanted to go super limited, I might knock out the cobalt blue and the chromium green oxide too. If I was really trying to be as conservative as possible and just not worrying about it. Don't get so much color out. But as I said, working on a commission at the moment. So I literally just scraped off the palette, freshened it up, and I'm going to continue working on that later today. I work on a lot of commission work here in the background as well, which is fun. So, and a great big landscape project, which I'll be sharing with you very, very soon. I'm going to get my synthetic number 2 Shiraz pointed round. I'm going to mix up a combination of burnt umber and quinacridone magenta. And should we start drawing this thing? Let's make some decisions here compositionally. There was something that I really loved about the height in this piece. So I'm going to bring my horizon line in here first. And I think somewhere across the bottom about there, that's where roughly that line of the field's going to go. Now you're seeing this at a little bit of an angle, but if we go there, how's that, Nick? Yeah, that looks good, huh? Is that a little distorted, or shall I come at it a little bit more square? That'll be right, eh? Looks fine at your end? Yeah. Yep, cool. I'm recording on all cameras, sir. Yep. Excellent, excellent. I don't know if you can hear Nick there in the background. He's guiding me along. I really do love this shoulder of trees over here on this side. I want to make a feature of that. Have some mass here. Anchor it here kind of in the mid-ground. We're going to have a nice open foreground. There's some puddles and some light that's going to be shining across here. Now, here's something that I want to talk to you about as I'm doing this. Let's get those references back up there. I really love to draw with my brush. This is a way that I can really work on my brush techniques, hone my skills in observation. It speeds me up. I don't get quite as careful. I know I can always move stuff around, but I really do like drawing with that brush. Something about drawing with the pencil kind of slows me down. I feel like it just tightens me up, and I latch on too much to this sense that I've got to have an absolute precise design. And so much about my painting in recent months, in recent years really, has been about a certain level of freedom compositionally. So you just want to, I call it shooting from the hip, right? You're familiar with that expression. So that's exactly what we're going to do here. Now, I love how the thing about this composition, if you can see from that reference photo there on the left, how it kind of funnels us down into this little point in the valley. First shift I'm going to make, though, is you see those two trees that are right there at the base of the valley? They should occupy that space right here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to move them this way. I'm going to shift it over to the left. Why? Because I want to open up that space and create a little bit of a destination. So that's a bit of a compositional change I'm going to make. And I'm going to see if we can make that work. Now, we've got two trees that are the same size, very equal in terms of volume. One's a little brighter than the other, but another compositional change I'm going to make is I'm just going to create a bit of a difference between the two. So I have one smaller and one slightly bigger, and there's a third one that's just tucked up under the shoulder of that tree on the left. Now, then there's something else going on here. We got some poplars that are way out here in the distance, which is kind of interesting. I want to keep those in there. I'm going to push them further out to the left, but now that we've opened up this space here in the foreground, I'm wondering, could I have more poplars out there in the distance at the base of that valley? So to make sure I've got enough space for everything, there we go. So here's the thing. Does it look chaotic? Does it look like a mess? Well, I think you can generally see where those big shapes are going. I got a cute question here. What do you look for in a reference for a landscape? I'm curious to hear how much you invent or push in terms of value, temperature relationships, any tips. Okay, that's a fantastic question, VZJ. And by the way, if you got a question, I want you to do what VZJ has just done. This will help me so much. See you in the live chat. 3 capital Qs. All right, so, or you can tag me in the post. By the way, I will just say, you can absolutely super chat me. I'm totally open to super chat, and that will make sure that it's visible and it'll highlight you there on the screen. But I want to tell you what I do with the super chat money now. 100% of those super chats goes to Orphan Aid International. And that's not just because I'm such a great guy or anything like that. I'm not fishing for that, but I'm just so inspired by the work that these folks do. And they're based in Queenstown, here in the next town over from me in New Zealand. So yeah, really inspired by the work that they do. Check them out. But Orphan Aid International, I give 100% of that money to them. So they're doing fantastic work. So if you do want to get your question answered and you want to know what I'm doing with that, there you go. So just by the by. So great question there. So what I'm looking for first is I'm looking to be impacted in the moment in the landscape. That's first and foremost. I try not to look for a photo that I would really love to paint, but rather I want to feel that punch, that gut punch or that heart punch, right? Just get that raw emotion of being in the field and being impacted by what you're seeing in front of you. Okay, what is that? That's you being inspired. That's you connecting to source, right? For me, that's a moment in time. It's a special moment. It's a fleeting moment. It doesn't last forever. In fact, sometimes it's instantaneous, these light effects that you can get out in the landscape. So normally the word I'm looking for is wow. Look at that. Boom. So what you're seeing there with that photo reference, hey man, we all got an iPhone in our pockets just about. I know, I hate it too, but you know, the fact is that camera that's with you, that's the best camera you got oftentimes. It's not about having a great photo or having great photo reference. It's about just get the dang image and see if you can secure that idea, lock it in that moment of time, and draw upon that experience later in the studio. So what am I looking for? Well, I'm looking for first that moment out in the field. That's what I'm looking for, first and foremost. Having that experience, connecting with your subject, and then see if we can draw upon that in the studio. Then what I'm looking for in the actual photo is, you know, does it have okay exposure? Does it give me a sense of the color, the light, and the atmosphere? And then is there something going on compositionally that I can work with? What am I looking for though in my composition as I sketch this thing up? what I'm looking for is some feeling of narrative. I want that viewer to go from point A to point B. Where's point A? Well, it's where we're standing right here in the immediate foreground, right down low here. We're in the valley and we're looking towards this grand vista. And so that's why I wanted to punch that depth in there right there. So it allows us access to that distance to travel up into these mountains. So here with these live streams, my paintings, if you know me, you know that those paintings take a long time. I'm what you would call a realist painter. I love realism. I love me some detail, but I also like a painterly painting as well. I'll just say, I really love a painterly painting. So it's kind of a combination. When you get up close to it and you look at it, you're like, wow, okay, kind of detailed. But you look a little bit closer and you can see just this massive brushwork. All right, I'm going to solidify my drawing a little bit. Once I've honed in on that resting place of a lot of these shapes and forms, I go ahead and press just a little bit harder and lock in a couple of those key features. What are some of those key features? Well, maybe the way the light will strike this cliff face over on the far left-hand side, picking up those lines, those highlights on our forest that's clinging to our mountain. So I like that shape right there. That's going to be a nice highlight. A little bit of a shoulder there. As it dips down into our field, I'll solidify some of these trees. Raise the line of our field back there and then anchor that tree. A little more solidity right there. So again, burnt umber and quinacridone magenta. Why these two colors? You're going to see in a minute as we start to bring in some of our colors of our atmosphere and our mountains. What's going to happen is we're going to get this beautiful warmth that comes through and starts to blend into the other colors. From Turk Link 9370. How do you mix the background green? How do you mix the reflected light on leaves? Okay, well, just stay tuned. We might get into some of that today. All right. Have you considered selling all your color studies on a massive panel? I have. Those would look epic. Yeah, often I kind of, I've had a few people buy my little color studies and I've cut them up. So they got a little border around them. But I haven't actually done a color study for this. This might even actually be the color study for the bigger painting. Good questions today. Goodness me. Good questions above. Yeah, absolutely, Leon. Absolutely. Okay, so what you're going to see today here is the initial thought process. It's about trees in the landscape. It's about the idea. It's about the composition. It's about how to start. You know, oftentimes we sit there and we get stuck in that analysis paralysis, and you just got to make a start. Now, I work on a process that is a layered process. I'm thinking about what this layer looks like as a base, and then layer over the top, working my colors over the top. And so there's always the opportunity to shift and move. And by the way, if I didn't mention, I'm using oil colors. I always get that question. Are you using acrylics? Are you using water mixable oils? What are you using? Oil paint. I'm an oils guy. I love me some oils. Now, I just find that the luminous quality, that reflective quality of oils, the range and colors that you can achieve, the surface quality, the thickness and texture, that's just far superior to any medium. In my opinion, you colored pencil artists might beg to differ. It's all good. Continue to do you. You do you. I love the oils, and that's why I'm sticking to them. I don't think I have enough lifetimes to really geek out about other mediums and other processes, so I'm just going to stick with this, if that's all right. So, starting to solidify my composition, I think I'm there. I think I can feel it. I can see where those poplars are going to go. I've opened up the space. I like this uneven V shape that's formed by the shoulder of this mountain. And then we got that sky beyond. We're going to have a little bit of a burnout spot up here in the sky. We need to get some color down. Should we do it? Let's do it. So I'm going to get out some extra long filberts here. These are number 4 Rosemary & Co. extra long filberts. All right, all the brushes that I use are from Rosemary Co. and the oil paints that I'm using are from Blue Ridge Handmade Oils. There is also another brush that I need. Absolutely need this for the block end. It's my favorite brush, and it's not just because it's named after me, but I got, you know what I've got here. This is the trusty old Tish dagger. We've got a 3/8 of an inch, two 3/8 of an inch Tish dagger brushes, and two of those filberts. I'm going to do the block end pretty much with those two. Now, when I'm here in the studio and I'm working, the process that I stick to is working with whatever's furthest away and work my way forward. Generally, that's the pattern that I'm going. I might flip it up a little bit for my Academy folks, show a different approach. But if I'm out in the field, what I was going to do is lock in those darks first if I'm painting outdoors plein air. I don't see a water. Well, that's just because it's not in frame. Look at this. Look at this. There we go. There we go. There. Stay hydrated. Man, I'm one well-hydrated dude, but I thank you for looking after me. All right. There you go, Wind Trooper. What's with YouTube today? I keep getting these commercials. Lynn, I don't know. We're not in control of what ads YouTube plays. It just happens. And because it's out there, it's a public live stream. You're gonna get some ads that YouTube's gonna play. It's just gonna happen. I got a little bit of nickel yellow on there, titanium white and Crimnance white. Now, why the two whites? Well, my titanium's nice and opaque. Love me some titanium. But that Crimnance white is nice and transparent. I like about a 50-50 mix of those two in the initial stages. We're going to mix into that a little bit of cobalt blue. And there's a color in that sky that I really like. It feels slightly warm, slightly green. I'm going to come through and just brush in a bit of that dusty blue. And I'm going to follow along pretty much with what I'm seeing in the reference. I do love some of those shapes that I'm seeing in the cloud, but I don't want them to mimic the mountain. So if I've got a shape there, I want to bring it a little bit lower. And maybe even flip the script a little bit and have some of those clouds that come off the top of the page. So have a little bit of a shape like that. All right, so let me go ahead and grab some ultramarine, a little bit of cobalt teal, deepen that blue slightly, bit of lead white, bit more ultramarine, and I'm using Liquid Original. Now, the deal with the medium is you don't want to use too much of it, okay? Just about 1 part medium to 3 parts paint, and that'll do. Now, I'm blocking this in with bold strokes of that 3/8 of an inch dagger brush, and it's going to leave a bit of texture and a little bit of tooth. Only slight. It's not huge gobs of paint. Now, by all means, you can do that, but I just feel like I don't want too much paint and too much texture out because I'm going to be layering, right? I think I forgot to wash that brush. That brush is a goner. Dang. Oh, well. I got more. So I'm going to go for some burnt umber now. And my titanium white and my Crimnance white. Why burnt umber? Well, we can make a neutral gray if we add in just a little bit of ultramarine blue. And there's some shadows here in our cloud, so it's a little bit darker and a little bit grayer. Bring a little contrast up here into the sky and establish some of that cloud shadow color. Now, I love the block-in process because it's so immediate. It's so quick, right? It's the thing that establishes the scene right away. That immediacy is the thing that just, I just find it captivating. From there, you can establish your scene, one sitting, let it dry, and then think about your painting. And I put up my paintings after I've blocked them in for what I call cook time. My Tisch Academy folks know all about that. Cook time. And as the idea is cooking, and as you're thinking about it, you then play a game called aesthetic chess, where you start moving these pieces along. You start thinking about it, going, okay, what piece needs to move where? What move do I need to make to tell a better story? Do you put a bit of green in the blue sky? I do. I actually use cobalt teal, which is a greeny blue. So there's a slight amount of green in there, very perceptive. All right. Hello, Anne Green. How are you? All right. Sarah Churchill's entering the chat here, and she's answering a question, so check that out. Walkie 11398. I don't know what's up with these YouTube names, but YouTube made an update, and now we can't see your real name. So sorry if I'm gonna mispronounce or butcher your names. It's difficult to follow along with all the numbers and all that stuff. That's all right. No worries, Anthea. Good to see you. Hello from the UK. Good, awesome. Right. Okay, I'll carry on, shall I? Now that Naples, I say Naples, sorry, my replacement Naples, my nickel yellow is fantastic for adding just a little bit of warmth. There is a slight greenness that comes through as that's mixing with the blues, but I think it works all right. Let me go ref close. No, not that one. That one. There we go. Now, by the way, my Tisch Academy members, y'all are going to get access to the reference material here, royalty and copyright free. So if you want to paint this picture, you'll have access to that. We'll be carrying on with this painting today over on Tisch Academy. By the way, if you haven't heard about Tisch Academy and want to know what that's all about, it's like art school, only way better. No lock-in contracts. Learn at your own pace. Instant access to over 400 hours of exclusive video content. Weekly live streams, critique videos. There's even an art business course on there. And the best part is we upload and add to that content library every single week. Multiple hours of content. So if that sounds like you and you want to push your painting further today, then check it out. Click that link in the description down below. And I'm adding in a few highlights here in the sky. There is a little bit of a trick here. It's something I continue to repeat to myself as I paint along, which is save your tonal best for last. Save your tonal best for last. That looks like pure white, doesn't it? It's not. It's a light gray. Now, the reason I'm holding back with my tonal values is because we're going to be building into this painting that sense of light. I want this sky to burn out right here, more or less in the center, top center, and that light's going to be coming straight out of the middle. But isn't that breaking the rules compositionally? I think if it's light, I think it's okay. We'll see if it works. I can play aesthetic chess later on and move it if I don't like it. All right, so if I get a little bit too tonally bright, we can always knock that down by introducing some of that gray that we had established earlier. And I'm gonna be moving a bit of a clip here. I'm gonna try and get as far with this block end as possible because, as it said on the thumbnail, we're supposed to be painting willows, but I want to get these colors in here first. So this establishes context before we get those willows in. We'll just see if we make it. So if this ends up being a clickbait title, well, forgive me. Check out some of my other videos. Now, if we haven't met before, you know, my life's mission is to help you create better paintings, create work that you're really proud of, help you realize that artistic vision that you've got in your mind. I don't mind what it is. I don't care what it is that you're painting. But what I really want to do is get those tools in your hand that will help you create that work that really just makes your heart sing. And I find that process is so important. Having some sort of methodology is important. Understanding the consequences of our actions here at the easel. What happens when I do this? When I mix these two colors? What happens if I compose this way? What does that do to the vectors in my composition? I've mixed up a color here that's a combination of ultramarine blue. There's a little bit of quinacridone magenta. It's tonally a little bit darker. You could see here, we need a point of difference and contrast between what's going on in that sky and what's going on here with the mountain. Maybe I've gone a little bit too dark, But we can go back in and work back into that color. But as long as I've got that contrast, that's what I'm looking for. A little more titanium white there. Just lighten up that mountain. Lighten up, dude. And then we got that signature shape. That dagger is so nice for these broad strokes. You can actually cover a lot of ground pretty quick. All right, QQQ, why does the color you mixed on your tablet look lighter than what I see on your canvas? That is such a good question. Diane, so this over here, this is my palette. It's not a tablet, so it's a glass sheet. Spray painted the back of that glass a neutral gray. And the reason that it's looking lighter over here and darker over here is because of context. Now, color is relative. It's dark, but compared to what? It's light, but compared to what? And so much of what we're doing on our palette, we're trying to gauge our tones and colors relative to our other mixes. But what the neutral gray gives me right here is it gives me an instant sense of where on the value scale it's sitting. And I tried often to think about value as color, or color as value, I should say. A little bit of quinacridone magenta. Sure. What's going on? Is it? A little bit out of focus? Ah, Tamara. Good to see you here, Tamara. I've missed you. Just to let you know, Tamara, because Tamara always asks, am I recording this? I am recording on all cameras. Absolutely. In full HD for our Academy breakdown. All right, work that color in. Let's get moving. I love that shoulder of the mountain. You'll never see snow. It's so rare to see snow. Yeah, you get some snow higher up on the peaks, but how low it's coming into this valley, that was something that just blew me away. Nick, my video guy, and myself, we were looking at the weather, just going, oh, mate, we got to get up that valley. We got to get out there, man. Get some reference shots, get some B-roll footage. I had an absolutely epic day. And ended up with material for at least a dozen paintings just from that one shoot. It's awesome. All right, I'm going to leave that little bit there to come back in and work in some a little bit of a darker gray color. But that establishes, can you see that we're starting to establish zones? We got sky, then we got mountain. I'm not worried about light effects, texture, or anything at this stage. I just want to get that color down. We're blocking in. All right. Sometimes I feel like I don't get that flow when I use liquid. Am I just not using enough paint with it? Ashley, that's a great question. So here's the thing. You can see a little bit of that liquid up here in this little puddle at the top left of the palette or top right of your screen. So what I'm doing is I'm just dipping the brush in a little bit and I'm feeling for a particular flow. And you start to learn the balance, but the ratio you're looking for is 1 part medium to 3 parts paint. That's 1 part medium to 3 parts paint. Why? Well, any more than that, you're going to cause some problems for yourself later on down the track. I'm particularly concerned when it comes to using mediums of things like yellowing. I want my colors 10 years from now on the painting to look just as fresh as the day I painted it. Yeah, sure, I might need to apply a coat of varnish. That's all good. We know that. But the color, I don't want the color to shift on me. Now, paint will change over time. It's going to have its effects. That's why we have art restorers, right? But if there's anything I can do in the studio, in my process, to limit the amount of yellowing that's going to happen, I'm going to do that. And oftentimes what happens when we use too much medium, it can go yellow on us. So that goes if we're using linseed oil or any kind of medium that has got that general tendency and it's got a linseed oil base, it could yellow if we're going too far with our medium. So using too much. So soupy, fluid paint, and it's soupy and liquidy and fluidy because it's just too much dang medium. Right. The other thing I'm worried about is a process of cracking. And related to that is delamination. So using too much medium can lead to cracking and delamination. This is where one layer comes unstuck from the next layer. Using too much medium can and might cause that. Now I say can and might because we don't really know exactly the extent of any damage that can occur later down the track because there's so many variables in painting. But there is a risk there. And because there's a risk, then I just stick to a couple of ground rules. And that is 1 part medium to 3 parts paint. Now I can use less than that. Absolutely. It's probably better that I use less than that. But generally speaking, that's the ratio that I'm sticking to. So how do you get an idea? The question is, how do you get an idea about how much to put in and that flow? Like, how do you know if it's feeling a little bit sticky, claggy, difficult to work? Where's the right thing? Well, the next thing to consider is the brushes that you're using. You see, Ashley, and anybody else who wants to know, I'm using bristles here in my block-in. If I was using a really soft synthetic brush, let's say like this One Stroke Red right here, this is a soft synthetic brush, this one right here. And it's got so much flex to it. And I just wouldn't be effective with my strokes. I need something that acts like a shovel, like a backhoe, something to push that paint, push that color along. So that's what I'm looking for. I need to get some titanium white out. I'm out of titanium white. Oh my goodness, and look at the time. I'm running down the clock here. I need to get a wiggle on. In fact, because trees are on that thumbnail, and I'm going to get some mad hate in those comments. I see it. I know it. I see you there. I might even have to change the thumbnail and the title post live stream. But I do want to get some trees done for you today. But we're going to be picking this thing up and going on immediately with Tisch Academy after a short break. But before we do that, you might be wondering, what the heck is Tisch Academy all about? Well, allow me, just for a minute, to tell you about it.
Are you ready to improve your art? Do you want to take things to the next level? Well, at Tisch Academy, we'll guide you through the whole process. Now, traditional art school can be really expensive, and you're going to go through all of that time, and at the end of it, are you even going to learn how to paint? You're taking a huge risk, and not to mention, you got to travel there to take those classes. But here at Tisch Academy, you can learn at your own pace, on your own time, and learn those things that actually interest you. With your Tisch Academy membership, you're going to unlock over 350 hours of exclusive video content. You'll have access to the critique videos, but most importantly, those weekly live streams if you're a member of our Academy VIP tier. Now, maybe you've hit a creative block and maybe you've experienced that low energy when you approach the canvas because you're just not sure what to do. I get it. I've been there too. But I guarantee that Tisch Academy will see your art soaring to new heights. Now, that's a bold claim, I know. Don't just take my word for it. Here's Daniel, who's experienced massive results from taking our courses on Tisch Academy.
If people just get on my Instagram and scroll down to the bottom and see what my first works were to now, you've just changed my life. I think you've got so many tools on the Academy that anyone that goes on there is going to be successful in their own personal way. And when I start painting and do something like this that I never thought I could do 3 years ago, there's no way. I don't know, it's got more of a meaning to life now, and now I have goals.
Now, I'm so inspired by Daniel. He's kicking massive goals. Now, here's Penny, who's experienced similar things from Tisch Academy.
I have painted for a long time, actually, but I felt kind of stuck. You know, I kept doing the same things, and I didn't feel like I was progressing. And so when I found Andrew's videos and then later joined the Academy, I learned some concrete things like it was my composition that I'm off. And I learned some steps where I could go, oh, okay, that makes a difference. And in an encouraging community, I would put a piece up, a photo of what I did, and got some really good feedback, encouraging feedback.
Now here's Swati, who's learned from our tutorials and has applied that to her own art and is now creating bigger, more ambitious work.
Hi, I'm Swati from India. I always wanted to be a painter but couldn't pursue it professionally, and it was more like a hobby. This is how I used to paint before. Then I took Andy's tutorial to learn more about realism and did few of his copies too, and this is one of them. It helped me a lot in understanding the concepts like color mixing and composition. This is where I am now. Thanks a lot, Andrew. You have been a great influence on me. Looking forward for your next tutorial.
Now I just love Terry from Montana. Here's what he's experienced from Tisch Academy.
Howdy, I'm Terry Hirsch from Dillon, Montana, and I became a student of the Tisch Academy with Andrew Tischler because I had a stroke 3 years ago, and part of the therapy was painting, so I took it up. To give you an idea how I've advanced, this was my first painting, and this is now where I'm at. This is our daughter, and through 4 different paints. That was it, put into that. That's what you can get out of the Tisch Academy.
Now, these are just a few stories from some of our members on Tisch Academy. Trust me, there's loads more. So if you've been putting off this vital step in improving your art, then don't wait any longer. Jump in now, and I'm gonna make it super easy for you. We offer a 30-day money-back guarantee. No questions asked. If you jump in and you find that this isn't for you, then no problem at all. I'll refund all your money. Now, registering for Tisch Academy couldn't be easier. It only takes a few seconds. You're only 1 click away. There's no hidden costs and no lock-in contracts. Once you're in, you're in. And remember, it comes with that 30-day money-back guarantee. So what are you waiting for? Click that link and join us at Tisch Academy. I'll see you in the studio.
And we're back. Hey, thanks so much for that little interruption there. I freshened up my palette, got a few more strokes of paint out. And shout out to my Tisch Academy folks there who are in the chat answering so many questions for me. I really appreciate that. I got a question there, and let's see if it's still on the screen. Okay, here we go. Mr. McBow, if I've got that right. The mountain is looking very blue. Is that going to show through? Absolutely. Yeah, it is looking very blue, but check out that reference material. Isn't it looking pretty blue right there? It's looking pretty blue in my reference, but here's the thing. The block-in is an initial color and it's an initial value, and that informs the next part of the process. What's the next part? Well, we're going to go over the top of this with what I call modeling. Now, this isn't where I just do my little turn on the catwalk. That's not what I mean by modeling. We're modeling colors. I know I'm a massive doofus, bear with me. But I'm modeling colors. What I'm doing over the top of this is I'm fragmenting these big shapes a little bit more by reducing the size of my brush. And I'm thinking about my painting in 3-dimensional forms as if it were a model. I'm carving away at it. I'm bringing in that form. I'm creating texture effects and lighting effects and color relationships. Now, anytime you get the opportunity to do this in a painting, as Shia LaBeouf would say, do it! All right, so what am I talking about? All right, complementary opposites. Now, notice the blue right there. There's one thing that I want to play on right here with the complementary opposites. What's our opposite of blue? Orange, okay? Yeah, you're tracking with me? Cool. But I also want to get a little bit of violet in there. What's the opposite of violet? Yellow. Absolutely. So as I bring that bluey violet quality here, I want to have that orangey yellow quality of the light that's glowing out of that sky. And it's going to be echoed down here with these brilliant little backlit trees that are down here in the immediate foreground. And so that's what I'm thinking about. Now, I've deepened the tone as we come forward. Our tones and our shadows are going to get a little bit darker. What do I mean by tone? That's simply interchangeable for value, tonal values. So I'm getting a little bit darker as I come forward. Now, so much of our sense of depth is related to our line and shape, our tonal values, our color dynamic, and our edges. And I really want to create depth here. One of my primary goals for any given painting, if I'm playing with realism here, I don't know how you abstract painters are going to do it. Just carry on. But what I'm looking for is I'm looking for that sense of three-dimensional space on the two-dimensional surface. So that's three-dimensional space. One thing feeling like it's closer than another. One thing feeling like it's way out in the distance. So we need to pay attention to all of those things, line and shape. So our drawing, our linear aspect of the painting, creating a sense of perspective. Now, hopefully we can nail that by adhering to our photo reference within reason, allowing a little bit of invention to come through. But then our value, our tonal values, that's so important. Now that color that we're using in our initial SketchUp, the burnt umber and quinacridone magenta, that color is blending in really beautifully with the blues and some of those violets that we had before. Why? Because there's actually burnt umber and quinacridone magenta in this. It's just adding a little pop of warmth at the boundaries of some of these zones. Now, I don't know if you could see it there at that close angle, but as it mixes through, as I go along and cover up that imprimatura, my initial colored ground, it's coming through. Now, got a little bit of snow on the shoulder of that mountain. Let's get a couple of those little cheeky bits of snow that are just falling up there. I've just got the end of my extra long filbert brush. Just flick along just a couple of notes for myself to come back and paint in some of that snow. Work in a little bit of that in the background. So with our modeling, what then happens? Like, why block in at all? Why not just jump straight into the modeling? Okay, good point. But what I'm thinking about is, can this layer inform the next layer? And will this layer be visible at all through that next layer? So as I'm reducing the size of my brush, carrying on with my painting, and fragmenting those strokes a little bit more, you actually get this information of your initial block-in coming through those gaps in your brushwork. My question is, what's showing through those gaps? What color is actually coming through and registering? What's striking the viewer's eye? I want to create a surface that's alive, interesting, moving, crawling, dynamic, vibrant, and resonant. And the way I do that is by creating little points of contrast, be it a tonal contrast, so having plenty of variation in those tones, or a color contrast. Now, believe it or not, even out towards the final detail, there's still imprimatura showing through gaps in the brushwork. And I love that. So just a little pop of warmth. Now you're probably starting to see why. Why have right here that imprimatura showing through? Well, look, you could get that little pop of warmth that comes through, and it totally works. It's going to coordinate with everything. It's actually going to tie everything together. All right, so good questions today. When oiling out a painting, can linseed oil or clove oil be used? No, don't use clove oil. Do not use clove oil. I mean, it smells great, but I would not use that. It will absolutely hinder the drying of your painting. I wouldn't even use linseed oil. I oil out if I need to, and I do often on bigger paintings where the surface might go flat or dull. I use Liquid Original. I apply the Liquid Original to the surface, and then I rub it all off. I wipe it all off, and I only do that to areas of the painting that I'm going to add another layer to or rework. So that's my rule when it comes to oiling in or oiling out. You may have heard of that before, that process, if you're wondering what that is. It's just the process of rehydrating your painting surface. Now, art conservators do not like this, and they recommend you don't do it at all. In fact, Michael Wilcox, in his book, Glazing, fantastic book, by the way, schoolofcolor.com. Shout out to Michael Wilcox. You can pick up his book there off his website. I think there are copies available on Amazon, but grab it from Michael directly. Schoolofcolor.com. Love that book, but he's got a little statement in there, maybe a little bit snarky, but that's okay. I'll give him that. But he says, leave oiling out for those artists who have run out of ideas for how to ruin their paintings. I'm like, oh, ouch. But I think what he's saying is that you just don't want to leave copious amounts of oil or medium on your surface. It's not a varnish. So I'll rehydrate an area and I'll rub it back thoroughly with microfiber cloth. Now, aren't you going to blend and smear your paint if you do that? Yes, absolutely. Don't do it on a wet painting. Do this after the painting's dry. So you want a complete surface dry. With liquid, you'll get that after about 24 hours. But generally, I'll apply that process after about a week, just to stay on the safe side so I don't remobilize any of that paint. By the way, just again, thank you to my Tisch Academy folks who are answering so many questions there. Clearly, most of my Tisch Academy peeps here in the live chat right now have taken that oil painting fundamentals course, which really breaks down all of these processes and techniques and my palette and materials and all that stuff. So we really got you covered with all that info there. But thank you to my Tisch Academy folks there for being so good about answering questions. And thanks for all the shout outs in the live chat as well. Really appreciate that. Okay, got another one here from Mountainside 26. Is that dagger brush soft or is it a bristle brush? It's a bristle brush. So just going back to Ashley's question, you know, what do we do with that block in? How come I can't get that coverage? It's those bristle brushes are going to help you with that coverage. We really want to push paint, right? And so here with these areas, I want to create those blocks of color. I want to do it quickly, and I want to apply effective strokes of color. The only way to really do that is to have some stiffness in your brush. I'm looking forward to our Tisch Academy live stream coming up immediately after this one. Those replays always occur in the Tisch Academy library, but I'm looking forward to that just so I can take a breath. I'm running a gun in here and I'm thinking about you because I want to make sure that I get in here and paint a couple of trees because we're talking about trees. We're all about the trees. I'm thinking about those primary focal points in my painting compositionally as I block in a scene, as I'm composing a scene. I'm thinking, what's this painting about? What's it really all about? And for me, this is all about those trees and that light that is striking those trees and causing them to just explode with color against that background. So back to that question, is that mountain a little bit blue? Is it a little bit too blue? Well, it's going to work with some of those oranges and yellows. So again, going back to those complementary opposites. But right here, I got a little bit of that violet coming through. And so I really want to highlight that yellow that's going to occur as a strong contrast in some of these areas. I'm going to leave a couple of little gaps here. As this mountain erodes away, it picks up these beautiful little rim highlights across that. We'll leave those as imprimatura just for now, getting an indication about where they'll occur. But I'm kind of vibing. I'm enjoying it. I hope you are too. Let's go down in here and get in some of this field now. I'm going to reach for my nickel yellow deep and a little bit of that cobalt teal. It's slightly green. Knock the edge off with a little quinacridone magenta. So I'm using the red and the magenta to knock the edge off my green. It's a very muted, dull, slightly green gray color I've achieved there. And the shoulder of this mountain, it's covered in beautiful pasture, but it's in the shade. It hasn't actually caught that sun just yet. We'll bring it down so we get some nice contrast, and the sun's just going to start to appear in that field right about that point. But I'll allow this to go ahead and pass down behind our tree, create a bit of perspective there with the color. Bit of cobalt blue, bit of ultramarine blue. You got to use paint. I do keep the block in relatively thin compared to the texture that we're going to apply a bit later. But part of making those effective strokes is making sure that you got your brush loaded up with some paint. All right. When painting trees from Camille, Do you think about the shape and the form or just follow the reference? It may sound like a silly, but often people follow the reference without thinking about form. I think you've got to think about form, and I think you have to inquire, Camille, about the reason behind what it is that you're seeing. What am I seeing here? Why does it look like that? How can I get this to look like a willow and that to look like a poplar? And that we have both here in New Zealand, a lot of introduced tree species from Europe and some from North America. It creates a really interesting landscape because covering these mountains is native New Zealand beech forest. We've got like a temperate rainforest here, so cool climate rainforest, but that beech forest has got a very different look. And so this is something we're talking all about in our tree course. Great question, but you got to think about that form, right? Okay, speaking of form, I'm going to leave the initial block in there. Let's get down in these trees. Let's start to paint some of those trees in. The first thing I want to think about is my shadow. Now, in my hand, I've got some paper towels. This just made a little booklet here. It's folded over again. I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to wipe off my brush. Just squeeze that paint out of those bristles. This will help me achieve cleaner color. Keeps things nice and clean. Keeps that ferrule nice and clean and the handle. Now this brush is maybe about a year old now, but I like to keep my brushes pristine. I don't like to get paint on me. We're using lead and cadmium and cobalt and all that good stuff. So you want to limit your exposure to those metals. So here, initially, I want to think about the shadow color of that tree. I'm looking at my reference material here. I'm going to get out a little bit of raw sienna. It's going to be tonally a little bit darker than the highlights, but I want to get that raw sienna, get a bit of that warmth. And we'll start off with that color. So raw sienna, a bit of cobalt teal, and I've used a bit of nickel yellow deep and some of my lead white, my Krimnitz white. Touch of medium. And right here, I've joined these two trees together. Let's establish right now our shadow for the top of the tree. But you'll notice in the reference that the shadow actually gets a little bit deeper as we come further down into that tree. Now, can I just say again, thank you so much for joining me here in the studio. If this is our first time meeting, then make sure, please, hit that like button. Please hit the like button. Help this get out there to more people. May I be selfish and ask you to help me fulfill my mission, which is to help people make better paintings and to teach them some real skills that actually work. That's what I'm here to do. I want to be that one voice in the corner of your studio, not in a weird way, but just saying, go, you can do it. Mix this, use that, compose like this. Not that there's only one right way of doing it, but I've happened to stumble upon a methodology here that I feel really works, and it gives me consistent results here in the studio. And one thing I'm looking for is consistency. So help me spread the word and just click that like button for me. If you're not already subscribed, then do that. Absolutely. So you're notified when I upload another video. Now let's go over here. Let me adjust this camera and let's get that sucker right there in frame. And then we'll move over to another tree. Now again, if you want to take that painting further, then just check out Tisch Academy. It's top linked in the description down below. If you want to know about the materials that I'm using, we're going to link to those in the description down below as well. And if Jim Fairburn is listening right now, my tech guy, I'll get him to add those links to the description on this live stream to Rosemary & Co. brushes and Blue Ridge oils as well. Did you catch that, Jim? Excellent. He's on to it. Brilliant. So I'm going to brush in here a little bit of a lighter tone now, bit of white and a bit more of that nickel yellow. A little bit of that raw sienna. And you'll notice, gosh, that tree's looking rather dull. Why is it looking so dull? Well, here's the thing. You want to save your tonal best for last. Now that tonal best, fully fledged, is not going to be here until the final strokes of detail. but we'll add a little bit now. But I want what I'm calling a couch to work into. And that's just a wet layer of paint to get some nice blended strokes in there. Anthea, I am painting on a triple primed linen. This is oil primed linen, and I've covered it with a raw umber imprimatura. Thank you. Nikki's got in there. There you go. I'm new to the Academy. How do I continue watching when this segment ends? Oh, Steve Carroll. Hey, good to see you in the live chat, brother. Steve, go to your library, go to the home page. When you're in Tisch Academy, you'll find the live stream linked right there. And Steve, also, if you're an Academy VIP member, which I think you are, you would have received an email. So just make sure you check your email too. The link's going to be sitting right there for you. Yeah, and it's also in the live stream library, and it's also in the live stream chat over there on Tisch Academy. All right, let's go ahead and get out this one's a little bit small. This is a number 2 filbert brush. Let's get out some white. So I'm using both whites, a little bit of crimnants, a little bit of titanium, some nickel yellow, and there's a yellow that I absolutely adore. It's called Hansa yellow. I'll mix into that a little bit of Indian yellow. Let's try and get a sense of what that color on top of these trees might look like. And I love that color relationship between the yellow and that slight touch of violet that's in those mountains. I want to get a sense of the volume of that tree, but I love the way it picks up those edge highlights across those bundles of leaves here. A little bit more Hansa, a little more Indian, bit of nickel. Maybe even a little bit of cadmium lemon. Why not? Let's go. Let's do it. Just a little bit of a highlight. And again, keep it suggestive. But one thing I'm looking for is those ridge lines. I don't want a whole bunch of goopy paint that's going to get in the way of my fine detail that's going to go over the top. You see what I'm saying? All right. So it's a good idea to get away from your painting, look at it from a distance, see if you're tracking. Is it making sense? But I like that shape of having these two trees bunched together. This is even actually a group of trees. If we look closely at our reference photo, it's a group of trees sitting back there. That's kind of cool. And then we got our distant grassy plain and a few of these poplars that are going to occur down here. So all we're after right now is just something that's going to hold space. Oh my goodness. Can you believe the time? Look at this. Apology. One more question from Matthew Willis. Here we go, Matthew. If this was covered earlier in the live stream, wasn't able to join until now, what are the specific qualities you have chosen for the different yellows so far? Matthew, that's a great question to cover in our Academy exclusive live stream. I believe you're on the Academy, brother, are you? But that's a great one to cover over there. Look, we covered some ground. An hour is not a lot of time. My paintings are slow. Sorry for the clickbait thumbnail and title. But we're going to carry on with this immediately. After about half an hour, that'll give time for people to sign on, join in, and see us over on the Academy. Now, again, just click that link in the description down below. I'm going to be going for another 2 hours here on this painting. I'm so stoked on this painting, really excited about it. Hope you are too. If you want to see that, then join me over on Tisch Academy. Click that link down below. Hey, look, try it. 30 days, money back guarantee. Guaranteed you're going to love it. This is probably the thing you've been looking for if you've been struggling with your painting, trying to find a way to just make this work. If you're suffering with artist block, if you're suffering, trying to find the right techniques or the right way to apply this, look, all I'm going to say is that this might not be the right way or the only way. It's a way that works, and it's worked for thousands of people so far. So come and join us. The best thing about that is that exclusive community. But look, unfortunately, that's all we got time for here in this live stream. I will see you over on Tisch Academy. But if you're just here on YouTube, then let me say thank you so much for joining me here in the studio. And I'll see you again in another live stream or another video. Make sure you subscribe so you're notified. Click that little bell as well so you're notified when I upload another video or go live again. But it's been great having your company here. Thank you for so many fantastic questions. And I'll see you again in the next one.